Today I'm gonna show you a new workflow for building apps using Antigravity and NotebookLM. First things first, if you don't know what Antigravity is, this is all you need to know. Antigravity is Google's latest IDE. They launched it around 2 months back, and it lets you create apps using just prompts in simple English. NotebookLM is also a tool by Google. It's sort of like ChatGPT, but you can feed it custom information, documents, long videos, anything that you can imagine, and it uses those custom sources for giving you custom responses on whatever you are asking. It uses something known as RAG, retrieval augmented generation, for giving you responses, so it's way more accurate. If you have been building apps using AI, then you would know that there is something known as PRD, or product requirements document, that you use while you're trying to build any app using AI. So that's why it gives you accurate responses on things that you need for creating this PRD. For creating this initial PRD, you need to dump a lot of documentation on technologies you are using. If you are using any boilerplate, then details about that, and then a bunch of other details. And if you try to provide all this information to a single LLM, most of the times it does not respond correctly because it is not good with handling a lot of information. But when we use NotebookLM for creating these documentations, it is far easier for it because it uses something known as RAG, which lets it go through multiple documents and find parts that are relevant for building the PR. That is exactly what we are gonna do in this video. If you are trying to build something fairly complex that uses multiple APIs, or it requires you to work with different technologies together, then you need to have a PRD. So this is how the process looks like. You create a PRD. You might be using ChatGPT or Claude, or you would be directly just feeding all the documents in Antigravity. You would be asking it to create an app, and then it creates a plan for you, and then you execute this with the tool that you're using. Now, creating this plan is fundamentally the most important thing throughout this process, because if you mess up the plan, then everything downstream from here would not be correct. And if you try to change something down the line, it would be a huge nightmare. So if you nail the plan, then rest of the things become fairly straightforward. And that is where NotebookLM really shines, because it uses something called RAG that we went over earlier. We would be needing 3 parts for building this. First is definitely Antigravity and NotebookLM. And third is a NotebookLM MCP server. This will allow Antigravity to directly interact with the notebooks that we have created inside NotebookLM. So let's get started. First things first, this is the entire workflow that we would be following. First, we would be fetching all the relevant documentation on the app we want to create. Second, we would be dumping all of it into NotebookLM. Third, we would be going to NotebookLM MCP and installing it within Antigravity. And fourth is we would be just executing all that stuff within Antigravity. Before going into this workflow, you have to pick an idea. For this video, I would be working on this idea, basically an app that I was thinking of building for myself. So this app simply checks that if my website is running correctly in all the geographies like US, UK, Canada, UAE, all the places from where I usually get my traffic. And since I'm based out of India, it's difficult for me to check it directly. And it's always the worst feeling when someone emails you that the website is not working fine in their region. So that is what the app does. So for creating the workflow, first I need the documentation. I would be using 2 major components. The first thing would be a simple boilerplate. For boilerplate, I'm using this SaaS landing page template that I've been using from some time. It is by Gonzalo Chale. Shout out to him for creating this clean, nice looking landing page. It is built on top of Next.js, and it has all the ShardCN components. This looks easy on the eye. The second thing, I would be residential proxy supplier. I would be using Thor data for this video since I had some credits in my account. And this lets you basically view the website in multiple geographies for our use. Now, once you have all the relevant sources in place, then you just have to go to notebooklm.google. And once you are here on the dashboard, you can just create a new notebook. I already have a notebook where I've added all these sources. I will open up the notebook. Over here, the first source is basically the GitHub template that I just showed you, which has the entire boilerplate that we would be using. The second thing that is required here is the documentation. So for that, I just went on Thor Data's website. I went into their documentation. Since I knew that I wanted to use residential proxies here, that's why I just went on that page. Either way, you can also dump the entire documentation page. Like, you can just select this doc and dump it there. And Notebook LM will parse all the pages so it just works out. So in my case, I'm just selecting residential proxies. And now we have the notebook ready. That is all we needed. If you're still not sure that if these are all the things required, you can just use the chat here. You can ask questions about that if this is complete to build your entire app. Once you're done with that step, then we have to jump to the next step, which is using the Notebook LM MCP so that all these resources we can bring inside Antigravity. So let's jump onto Antigravity and install this MCP. And if you're using for this for the first time, you would see a window that looks something like this when you're opening it for the first time. Then you have to select the folder in which you want to create all those files. You can just click on open folder and create a new folder where you want to keep all your code. I already have a folder created here, Notebook LM. So I will just click on that and it will take me to the exact workspace. For using MCPs, you can just click on these three dots on the top right. This will show you, and just click on MCP servers. Now within this, there are a bunch of different MCP servers, but it does not have a Notebook LM MCP server as of now. So that's why you would be installing a custom MCP server here. So here are commands for installing that. So I just need to copy all of them and go drop them in Antigravity. Basically what we are doing is we are installing a package called as Notebook LM MCP server, and that package will allow us to use all the Notebook LM capabilities within Antigravity. You can also get it from the description of the video. I will just drop this entire doc there. So I will just paste it here and I will send this. It has created a list of steps for itself. It will execute on them for a while. By the way, you can also decide that how often you want these commands to run on itself and when you want to intervene. So just click on settings over here and just go on editor settings. So within my settings, you'll see that for auto execution, I have kept it to request review. I like to keep my settings a bit conservative. I don't want the agent to run all these commands on itself. That's why I like to review it every time when it's running a new command. But in your case, you can keep it always allow, based on your level of expertise and how independent you want the agent to be. It has installed the MCP server and now it's running the authentication step and it says the installation is done. I will ask it to just list down all the notebooks that we have within this workspace, showing me all the notebooks that I already have within my workspace. One quick way of checking if this MCP server is working or not is you can just click on these three dots in the top right corner. When you click on that, you will see MCP servers here. And when you go within that, you would have to click on this button, manage MCP servers. And here you should be able to see your MCP server. In my case, there was one thing that was happening again and again. The agent was not able to create this MCP server at the right place. If you are also facing the same problem, just click on view raw config. This would redirect you to the file. And when you're talking to your agent, you tell it explicitly to make the MCP server over here. That way it should start working. It worked for me. So once that is done, then it would just take a couple of seconds to authenticate your system. For that, it would just open up a new tab in your browser. And with that, you would be done with the third step. Now the next step is to just create the app in Antigravity. And in my case, like the app that I'm making it's basically a website checker. Like it checks if my website is working across multiple geographies. We made a prompt here. So this prompt asks the agent to first create a PRD and then it works on top of it. So basically it goes write a PRD for building an app that uses this starter template for generating all the UI elements. So over here, I will just add the link of the starter template that we wanted to use. So I will just come here and let me just grab the link for this and I will add it here. The rest of the prompt, this app helps users see if their website is rendering correctly in all the relevant geographies. They only input the link of the website and then our app uses residential proxies from Thor data for checking if the website is working on all relevant geographies. Please make sure that the app only has one page where the user inputs the link to their website, and then the tool shows the status of website in multiple relevant geographies like UAE, US, Canada, etc. Please note that the starter template and the Thought Data docs are in the website tool notebook. First, come up with a rough PRD. Don't assume anything. Write down all the technical questions that you have around using around using proxies from Thought Data and rest of the stuff, and then use the Notebook LM MCP to fetch all the answers for the questions and build the final PRD. You can change this prompt based on whatever thing you are making. But at the end of this, I will also add the Notebook LM link of basically the notebook that I created for the specific purpose. We'll just jump to the account and I will grab this link. So I will just click on share and I will copy this link and I will also paste this at the end of my prompt. And then I will just drop this entire prompt. I will come back here. I will just open up a new chat. I will select Claude Opus 4.5. It's the best model when it comes to planning or coding or anything, but it's just so expensive that I only use it for planning. So I will just drop this here and I will send my prompt. And ideally, what it would do is it will first make a plan, then it will just list out a bunch of different questions that it has, how to use the documentation and the rest of the stuff. And then it would be using the MCP server that we provided it for finding all those answers. So that way, the context won't be bloated, like it would only know the things that is relevant for its use case, and the process would be cheaper. So I can see that it's already using the MCP tools now. So, like the first question it is asking is what is the structure of the SaaS landing template? Then the next question is how do I use Thought Data residential proxies and rest of the stuff around that. And then like the pricing details, the rate limits, and all that stuff. Once it get all those responses, then it would be creating the final PRD. So let's wait for a couple of minutes, grab a coffee, and then come back to it. If you look into how this is working, it first finds the answer of some questions and then it asks cross questions and then get the answers for that. So it's just using that targeted information without just bloating the entire context window. Like, what I and rest of the people used to do is they used to just go on the documentation of the website and they used to like copy the entire thing, which works in practice. But the problem with that is that your context window is getting exhausted, in most cases, and even beyond that, like you have to do it again and again for all the different pages. So it just saves you all of that hassle. I think if this process works out well, this would be my go-to method going forward. But let's see, let's look at the final output. I think it's closer to creating that. It's saying now I have good understanding of what's in the notebook. Let me create the rough PRD with the technical questions first, and then I will query the notebook again for more specific questions about proxy implementation details. So far, this looks really good to me. I'm actually very excited if this method works out, and so far, whatever it is doing, it makes a lot of sense. So, fingers crossed. So, it has created the rough PRD draft here. It has the user flow, it has target geographies, technical stack, and there are still some open technical questions that it have. So let it get the answers for that, and then it would be creating the final technical document. So even now, like, it did not. One tip I have for you is keep your auto approval on for this one, because every time it makes a MCP call, then you would have to approve that request. That would just take a lot of effort. Just go on quick settings panel on the top here, and once you go there, then you will see this menu over here in auto execution and review policy. Keep it always proceed for this task, and then move it back to whatever settings you prefer. But during this entire process, just so that it could happen at a good pace and you don't have to like interfere every time, it's better to keep it that. So I stepped away from my system for a minute, and this is the website where I land. So this is actually working. It has created the entire landing page. So this method actually works so well. Like this website looks exactly like the reference, and even the rest of the things are working fine. Only thing that I would have to check here is that if our backend is working fine over here, I see that it is already putting in URL here and just checking how the UI looks and rest of the stuff. The backend won't be working because I'm yet to add my Thor data credentials within the app. So let's wait for it to just finish off the process. It has already created this env.example file here, which tells me that which all information I need to get. So let's go on Thor data and get all these specific credentials. I will just go to thordata.com. Now within Thor data, I can get all these details. So I see Thor data proxy host. So I will just copy that information from here and I will paste this. Similarly for port, I see it's 999, and for username and password as well. So let's copy this and let's go back on Antigravity. Let's paste it here. And similarly for the password. And I will just save this file. And I see that it's finally done executing all of these. So I will just test this out with one of my own sites. So the URL goes something like type smart. So I will first open up the site here. I see that it's loading, and I will also just drop the URL here and click on check accessibility. I see that it's running for all the 8 geographies. Let's wait for a couple of minutes for it to run, and I see that it ran on all the geographies. It also tells me the time that it took for the website to load. So this is actually very useful for a lot of different cases, especially if you run ads in multiple geographies and if you want to check that out. So pretty good. I still see some errors, like it has created multiple headers on the top. But apart from that, it did a really great job. I think this workflow is something that I'm gonna keep using in the future as well. And that's all for this one. Do let me know if you try out this workflow, and I will see you in the next one.